goes. Fingers crossed. Okay. Hey, everyone. Let me see. I'm trying to dangle my camera from a tree with this fancy tripod that I got. Let's see here. And I got to get my glasses on. I can't even see how many people are here. It looks like 400. Oh, 4. Okay. But 400 are coming. What's up, everybody? Let's see. Hello, Daniel. You are first in the group. 7 people. That's almost 400. In fact, that's 1.75% of 400. You're 7 400s, right? Is that right? Yeah. All right, 14 people. Oh my God. Now we're 2.5% of 400. 16 people. Oh, this is crazy. This is insane. Hey, in a second, we're going to bring over the KUALA Lumpur, a part of the KUALA Lumpur, Malaysia Disc Golf Club. We're out here on the Lake Valley Disc Golf Course. This is the course that Disc Golf Valley was based upon. That's... They won't know. I know. Okay, so check this out right off the bat. So I'm wearing this shirt, and I actually had to ask, because we're from the U.S., and everybody's offended by everything. I asked, is it okay to wear this shirt? Because it's Lunar New Year out here. If you come out here, everything is red. Everything is lit up in red. And they said that actually here, will one of you explain why it's okay? Let's teach the U.S. a lesson as to why it's okay to wear a shirt from another country. Here, want to explain it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, this is Nikki from the Disc Golf Club.
Hi.
So it's okay to wear this shirt here?
Yes, totally fine.
And why is it? What is this?
Because it's our culture, and it's a compliment when you wear it.
Okay.
Right? So you are respecting our culture, and you're wearing it. We love it.
Okay. So yeah, so no negative comments about me wearing the shirt. I love the shirt, but it's we try our best to fit in as best we can. I'll be honest. I don't fit in here. I kind of stick out a little bit. What'd you say? Just a little bit?
You're 2 feet taller.
I'm 2 feet. He says I'm 2 feet taller. Hey, everybody, come on, come gather on, come meet everybody. This is the KUALA Lumpur Disc Golf Club. Well, a part of them. This is Senga, who you will be doing a video interview with Senga. He's from Cameroon. He's the first disc golfer from Cameroon, Africa, now living in Malaysia. You met Nikki. This is James, who may or may not have beaten me by 5 strokes yesterday. I don't recall, but I think it was 5 strokes. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Adeno, who's not as good as James.
Better looking.
Better looking. And then Darren, who's been our chauffeur for a lot of these days. So anyways, they're going to continue playing because it's way more fun to play disc golf than listen to some guy talk about disc golf. But thank you all for showing me the course. We'll join up with you in about an hour, right?
Okay. That's good.
Just coming back. Thanks, everybody. All right. Hello, everybody. How is everybody? Oh my God, by the way, next time you're disc golfing in Southeast Asia, bring bug spray. We are surrounded by rainforest. In fact, I think most of the towns here were cut out of rainforests. And so, there's a lot of bugs. In fact, if you see me jumping around, scratching my legs, it's because I don't have some neurosis or something. It is, there's a lot of bugs out here. So how's everybody doing? I hope everybody's having fun, enjoying life. Like I said, it's Lunar New Year out here. It is a 2-week or actually 15-day holiday. Some people say it's Chinese New Year, but a lot of cultures celebrate it. So it's Lunar New Year, but it celebrates 15 days of celebration. Like you can't even imagine. All the buildings are lit up red everywhere you go. There's red lanterns everywhere. Everything is red. And the thing, this is all new to me, right? So I'm learning about the Lunar New Year is it is all about family. It's not about going out and getting drunk. In fact, quite the opposite. The first day, the entire city was almost shut down, it seemed like, because everybody, it's a family holiday. Businesses shut down. People in the city leave to go out to the country to spend 2 weeks with their family every year. So it's really a big family holiday. Lots of gifts, lots of grandmas giving kids presents, stuff like that. But anyway, it's really neat, and we're very lucky to be a part of it. And Daniel says there's snowstorm here, 26 degrees. Oh, it's like only 26 degrees Fahrenheit out here too. It looks like, that looks like grass, right? That's actually snow. I use a filter, a very fancy filter in my live streams to make it look like that's not snow. But oh my God, I'm freezing right now. Ooh. Anybody believe me? Let's see. All right. Benita, working hard in the class. I know you are, Benita. Keep plugging away. Your question is, what is the weirdest thing I've eaten in the past week? All right, so the weirdest thing I've eaten is what I am not aware that I'm eating. So most of the restaurants have menus that you can choose by pictures. There are a lot of them are just outdoor stands, and they have 7 or 10, 12 dishes, and they're all pictures. And we just walk up and point to a picture. So the weirdest thing I've eaten, I don't know, because a lot of times we just don't ask. Let's see. Yesterday, though, we had chili squid. Let's see. That was probably the weirdest thing at the dinner. And squid's not that weird, but everything else was mutton, chicken, potatoes. Okay. I got the weirdest thing I've eaten so far. Okay, so check this out. I love most things about Malaysia. This is a beautiful country, beautiful culture, beautiful people. But they put corn. There's a dessert they have that has corn and red beans in the dessert. Like they take a perfectly good crushed ice, flavored, maybe even some ice cream on it, fresh fruit, little sweet jellies, and then there's corn and red beans in it. And it's perfectly normal out here. But I would say that's the weirdest thing, just because you're like, when you're like, I love corn. Corn's great. But you don't expect corn when you're eating a bowl of ice cream. It's very shocking to the brain. So that's probably the weirdest thing I've eaten so far. Still good, mostly. I would have liked it more without the corn, though. Let's see. Which basket brand is most common in Asian courses? Okay, so I believe most, if not all, I can't say for sure all, but they're made by down in Johor. They basically took the idea of a veteran's basket and had someone weld them. So the thing about the economy out here, a lot of countries, the economy is the dollar to their money is not quite the same. Well, everything out here is about 20% less. Like you can go get a meal for $3 out here. Like and no exactly. I mean, I'm talking like a beautiful dinner for like $3, including drink, tax, everything. So the baskets in the U.S., which might cost what, $500 plus $300 to ship, that's $800. That would be the same out here as paying like $5,000 for the basket, which is about an average person's annual wage. So an 18-hole course would cost 18 people's annual wage. It's just cost prohibitive to import baskets from the U.S. By the way, this is also the biggest problem with discs. We're talking about a week's wage for a golf disc, or at least, several days' wages for a golf disc. It's just kind of hard to do in some of these countries. It's going to be a challenge. But a person down there is making them for under $100 a piece down in Johor, $100 US, which gets them in the ballpark of US prices relative to the economy. So the basket right here, you can see, they're good. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They catch discs. Remember when disc golf started in the US, we had single chain, 10 chain baskets. So it's not like, we needed these professional baskets. The fact that we had baskets in the ground and weren't putting at trees was amazing. So there hasn't been this sense of like we've gotten spoiled in the U.S. with how good the baskets are. No one out here is spoiled. They're just grateful to have baskets. What's your favorite new to you overseas course I've played so far? Oh gosh, so probably the best overseas course I played so far is probably the course in Mount Gambier, Australia. We actually went like 5 hours out of our way to get to it. And the reason why is because it was in the caldera of a volcano. Like literally, like you're in a hole, and when you look around, 360 degrees, it's up. I mean, we are in the caldera of a volcano that I might be getting this wrong, but I think it erupted as recently as 100 years ago. So like it's not active, but it's dormant. It's like it's gonna erupt again. And the course was in there. And so we went there just because I'm looking for new and unique experiences. I've done so much disc golf in my life. Anything new and unique is great. So I wanted to play in the volcano. Well, it turns out the course was actually really, really good. Like it was a well-designed, really challenging, like par 65 course. Like it was a legit course. I wouldn't have cared, but it turned out it was a good course too. I think that's probably my favorite so far. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'd say. Tell us about the first time I played Climo in person. The first time I played Climo in person, oh God, let's see. I'm trying to think of when that would have been. 1992 or 93. It might have been the World Championships in 93, which he won. I was on the lead card on after 4 or 5 rounds. I was actually playing with him on the lead card, but I wasn't a top 4 player in the world back then. I was probably a top 20 player, and I think I finished 17th, which is probably where I belonged. But I had a good first 4 rounds. The thing about Ken is Ken was near perfect on the shots he could execute. Meaning short shots, short putts, he was near perfect. I mean, he made long putts and he still threw farther than a lot of people, but he was precise on the shots he needed to make. So on a 200, back then, like a 250-foot hole, 230-foot hole, where I might be like really good at that hole, 80%, he would be like 87% on that hole. Well, after 4 rounds, that 7% advantage every single hole adds up. That's why he almost always beat me. Thing to remember back then is that it was like back in the 90s, it was about approaching and putting. That was the entire game, was approach and putt. We threw off tee pads, but I could reach every hole with a mid-range disc on every single course just about. And I know a lot of players back then didn't throw very far. They had to throw drivers on a lot of holes. But the thing is, that's not because the courses like it was just because the players didn't have the skill of throwing far. They were throwing basically approach shots. So I figure if I can reach a hole if I would choose my harp on a hole, it's that's an approach shot. So when the best golfers back there were the best at approaching and putting, they weren't really driving the way they do in today's game. Power wasn't a thing. Like I never threw hard on a course ever, not if I threw a driver. And that's with speed 6 discs. I was holding back on everything. Certainly weren't playing par 4s. There were no par 4s and par 5s, or like virtually none. So Ken was the best at approaching and putting. He was best at executing that part of the game. Yeah, it was very annoying. It's very hard to beat someone that doesn't make mistakes. By the way, I'm going to be scratching the whole time I'm talking, so please forgive me. When is the next time you're going to be in the States near Tennessee? So I don't know. As of right now, I got the next 2.5 years scheduled to travel the world playing disc golf. 2 years in Europe. This year is Asia, Australia, New Zealand. Next year I want to do India. I'm trying to get courses in India, Egypt, and Madagascar. Tentative plans, maybe Cameroon. I want to play and I help build disc golf in Africa. Back to the Euro Tour. As of right now, fingers crossed, I plan on competing in the DGPT in 2025. I'll be 55 years old, so I should be about reaching my physical peak. Unless my game drops off a ton, like if I all of a sudden I'm like 980 rated I'm not going to come out and play just to make an appearance. But if I'm still shooting upwards of 1,000, 1,010 average, having 1,030 tournaments, I plan on playing the DGPT in 2025. That is the plan. And don't tell if there's any touring players listening, forget you heard this. But if you know any touring players, don't tell them this. But I plan on winning some tournaments on the DGPT in 2025. I just don't want to spoil it for the kids on tour, because it'll break their hearts knowing that I'm going to beat them in a couple years, according to my plan. Interesting thing how some USA disc manufacturing moving overseas will help grow the sport over there. Okay, so here, I'm going to give you all a lesson in disc design. Movie manufacturing over here will do very little to help in a lot of these countries. Here's why. A lot of things we know, goods and services, are cheaper to manufacture overseas. But a lot of that has to do with 2 things. Biggest one is labor overseas. When you have people working for $50 a week, and I'm not talking sweatshop labor. I'm talking about that is the economy. $50 a week, you could support your family. in some places $50 to $100 a week. Labor's less, and there are material costs that are less if those materials come from those countries. This is why clothing, for example, golf bags are so cheap to manufacture overseas. The materials are cheap and the labor is cheap, and it's labor intensive. Okay, golf discs are a problem for overseas in developing countries because golf discs are petroleum based, and petroleum based products basically have a global price. Like, you might be able to manufacture a golf bag for 10% the cost, but you cannot buy raw plastic, petroleum-based plastic in Indonesia for 10% the cost. Like, you're still paying close to the cost of the global cost of this product, which means you cannot manufacture golf discs that cheap over there. So where we might be wholesaling discs for $6 a piece over here, $6, $7 or something like that, wholesale, you might still wind up having to wholesale for $4 or $5 a disc in a lot of these countries. That's not a big enough price break to make golf discs affordable for players in a lot of these countries. Like in Asia, they can afford golf discs in Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Tokyo, or Japan in general, because the dollar and the economy works. So I know of a company who is developing golf discs right now, or they're working on it with plant-based materials, plant oils. If they can manufacture them with the plant-based materials, even though the golf discs may not be as good as like the polyurethane golf discs we throw, if they can get the material costs down, well, they can manufacture the steel to build the molds. They can, they have to import some molding machines probably, but then the labor costs are cheap. Then disc golf becomes affordable. Until that happens, disc golf is not going to take off in developing countries. Even in Malaysia, most of the golf discs are donated from Europe or the US. They come over here, they're donated, and they're mostly, not all, but to a large extent, just given away to players. Players will have, like, there are players in the club that own a golf disc. They come out and play. It could be an overstable driver. That's their driver and their putter. Like, a second disc is not in their wheelhouse to buy. So that is the biggest challenge out here, but there's a company that's trying to solve it, and I'm going to be doing everything I can to try to help them. There's no profit in this. This is just wanting it to grow. So that's fingers crossed, everybody. That's the biggest challenge out here. Even baskets are not that cost prohibitive because you can mine the metals and manufacture the baskets by hand if you had to out here. So close. When am I planning to come back to Australia? So we will, I think, probably in 3 years, maybe, we're going to come back over there for the winter. We want to take the train from Darwin to Adelaide. We've done the east coast of Australia. Now we want to do central Australia. And there's courses in Darwin and Adelaide. And then in between is the middle of the desert we want to do. So a few years. We're going to basically be doing winters where it's warm. And that's usually going to be south of the equator. So even if I compete in the U.S., I'm probably going to go south of the equator or at the equator, like in Asia, for the winters. I'm old. When you become elderly like me, getting out of the cold is a big deal. So that's what we're trying to do. What's up, Mr. Stokely? Miss you, brother. What's been your favorite part of the trip so far? Matt Goodwin. This, by the way, Matt Goodwin is my best friend in the world growing up. He has an entire chapter about him in my book. I love you too, Matt. I'm glad you're doing great. Favorite part of the trip so far has been just being places that are different. We've done the U.S. We've done the U.S. to death. In fact, if Jane's watching, if Jane can, if you can find a screenshot of our U.S. map, I'll show you where we've been. We've been everywhere, right? So to us, it's just about being someplace new and different. And so the favorite part is that tomorrow we're going to see something different. Like last night, we went to Chinatown because they're doing a lot of the Chinese New Year out here. The day before, we were at this cultural center where they were doing Lunar New Year celebrations. We saw a big performance and all the lanterns. It was so beautiful. The day before, where were we? Batu Caves. It was a Hindu shrine up in the mountains where you have to climb up 276 beautifully colored stairs to these huge caves. So the thing out here is that there is a lot of diversity as far as cultures. There's actually 4 main cultural groups in Malaysia. There's a Chinese Malay, there's the Malaysian Malay, there is the Indian Malay, and then there's the natives. And if I get this wrong, please forgive me. I'm trying my best to learn as much as I can. But the groups coexist. And it's really interesting to watch all the different cultures and religions, the way they coexist here, because it's like there's a lot of diversity out here. It's really crazy. But just seeing new stuff every time. Like we're going from here to Thailand, and then we're going to Cambodia, and then Vietnam, Japan, hopefully China. Fingers crossed we get to go to China in April, and then off to Europe. So that's probably like anything new is better for us than something we've done before. Variety. Love you, Matt. I really do. Get into some poison plants. Not yet. Although I did, and I got a video about this, and I got picked. Oops, I'm getting eaten alive out here. I got a video of this. There's this golf course we played yesterday. It's surrounded by a rainforest. Right? It looks like a golf course. It was a golf course. Beautiful manicured grass, fairways, rough that isn't cut as well. But the second you hit the rainforest, like there's this wall of rainforest. And when you walk in 2 feet, it's dark. It's wet, of course, rainforest. There are spiders, there are snakes, there are bugs. And I was starting to walk into to get my disc, and Adeno grabs my shoulder and pulls me back, and he says, "Look," and he points. And you look at this part of the like everything's green except this part of the rainforest is solid brown. And then I got this all in video. Tap the branch, and the whole thing comes alive, like thousands of fire ants. A fire ant colony on the tree. I almost walked through. I was told that had I walked through this, I could expect to get more than 100 really painful bites like within 1 second of each other. So that's not a poisonous plant, but it's like it's the real deal out here. There are things. By the way, I asked the person in my group, I said, have you ever seen any cobras on the course? Because they actually have not just cobras. They have spitting cobras, but they got the real king cobras, the big ones with the big things with the patterns on the back, like in Ricky Tikki Tavi. And this is what he says to me. He says, "Oh, there's no cobras out here. I haven't seen a cobra on a disc golf course in 2 years." And I was like, they didn't go extinct. Like if you saw a cobra on the course 2 years ago, there's cobras out here. Just because you haven't seen one. There's actually was a cobra nest at the course in Singapore, which we didn't see, but they told us about a hole, and then we walked over to where this cobra nest was, and they said the cobras moved on. There were cobras on the golf course. And cobras are like, yeah, if you get bit by a cobra, you have like 6 minutes. Like it's not made. It's the real deal. It's serious. No poison plants though. Heard there's going to be a Masters age restricted tournament. Is that accurate? And if so, would I be in it? Like a Masters age tournament or Masters age tour? I think there's actually going to be a tour, if that's what you're referring to. And no, I'm playing in the Pro Open division for the foreseeable future. I'm having way more fun competing against the kids. I'm not as competitive. The thing is, before this season, I played MP40 and MP50 tournaments. And in 2 years touring, I won 70% of my tournaments. And I'm playing against good players. The competition's high. I certainly didn't win every time, but that wasn't as much fun for me. When I'm playing in the DGPT and I have to shoot 1,024 for a tournament just to cash, like I'm trying to win the tournament. Obviously, I'm not out there just to cash, but like if I don't cash, well, then the cash line becomes like winning a tournament, because it's like I'm very proud of just cashing out here against these kids. They're so damn good, and they're 25 years old or 15, and they're great. So I'm having more fun. I'm honestly just having more fun competing against them. I donate my prize money, so I don't like really care about the prize money part of it. So it's just really that's the fun part for me. And then, every single round I get on a group with Chris Dickerson or Ricky or Simon or Paul or like all these people that I look up to so much. It's a real honor. And then I try to hang with them. And then, they probably beat me. But if I stay within 2, 3, 4 strokes of someone like Chris Dickerson, like I'm not, don't tell them I said this because I still want to win, but I'm not like really beating myself up over it. I'm like, wow, I finished within 3 strokes of one of the best 25-year-olds in the world. Pretty cool. What do you remember being my first favorite disc from back in the day? My first favorite disc, well, my first favorite golf disc was the 70 mold. It was a Whammo Frisbee that they made heavy. So there was 70 molds, 40 molds, 41 molds, 50 molds, 100 molds were the big 5 Whammo discs back then, and I preferred the 70 molds. That's probably my first favorite. I loved when the Eagle came out from Innova, the original Eagle, which was 1983, the first bevel edge golf disc. That changed everything. Probably my favorite disc, though, from before I quit playing in 2001 was the X Clone. That's the one that I first set the Guinness World Record with the longest throw of a disc with. Like if I had to, like I would say honestly, like if I had the option of enshrining myself somewhere on one disc that would encapsulate my career, it would be the X Clone from Discraft. All right, let's see. Must have been nice being a world record distance holder back then. It was great. So back then, the thing about back then is that distance was a real thing. There were competitive distance throwers. I mean, now it's basically there's ultimate players, disc golfers, and there's disc golfers that throw far. The only pure distance thrower really is David Wiggins and maybe a little bit of Simon. But most of these players are golfers. David Wiggins is a good golfer, and Simon's obviously is one of the probably 3 best in the world right now. Back then, there were distance throwers. So when you talk about who threw furthest back in the 90s, I threw really far back then, but there were the other players that threw that I was competing against are players that most of you have never heard of. Chris Vogt, Nicolas Bergeham, Peter Albers, Ken Jarvis, Thomas Palmer, Christian Sandstrom. You haven't even heard of these players, and they threw farther than anybody out on the Pro Tour because they weren't golfers per se. They were distance throwers. They actually focused on the art of distance as a competitive sport. And so they specialized. It'd be like on the PGA Tour. The people who hit the ball the farthest on the PGA Tour are not the long drive competition winners. It's a similar skill set, but it's a different skill set. I was the only player that really, truly crossed over. Don't get me wrong. All of those players were good golfers, but they weren't like lead card at Worlds good golfers. They were solid pros, but they were distance throwers. So yeah, so it was being at the top of that game when we were actually competing at distance was really neat. How big is the disc golf scene in Asia and Africa? So it's growing. It's in its infancy, honestly. There are, I think, 12 courses in Malaysia, but there's only a few courses in Thailand, a few courses in Cambodia. Japan's pretty big. But relative to like Western Europe and the US, it would be, I think it's still not as popular there. In Africa, they're just getting their first courses in now. I think Tanzania, Ethiopia, Kenya have courses. South Africa has a couple courses, I believe, but I believe it's less than 10 on the whole continent. My plan is I was contacted by somebody who's going to be moving to Madagascar, an avid disc golfer whose wife works for the embassy. And I hope I'm not getting it wrong, but if that's the case, then I'm going to get to go hopefully to Madagascar to introduce disc golf there, which is absolutely mind-blowing. I just the thought that I was going to get to go to Madagascar because of throwing frisbees is blowing my mind. Like pinch myself, like trying to like wake up. I can't believe this is happening, blowing my mind. So, but it's a ways to go. I'll tell you what, so one of the things that I'm looking at right now with my travels is going to sound weird, but it'll make sense when I explain it, is that I said I'm having a disc golf version of a midlife crisis. Because when I started playing disc golf, my first time I ever played disc golf, I played on the world's first course when it was the only course in the entire world. So I saw the infancy of the sport when it was a small group of players. It wasn't that small. There was Frisbee players for years, but still small compared to today. I mean, really small. And I watched the sport grow, and then it got more popular, and then pockets started popping up, and no one had heard of it, and there was no mainstay, and then it became more popular, and it grew, and like, but it's a timeline between Oak Grove Park and 2022. Well, I think the sport's doing better now than it's ever done, ever. Like, I'm not one of those old people that say back in my day it was better. It's like, no, everything about the sport almost is better now. But I say almost because there were a few things that were better back then for me personally, like the sense of community that happens when you're this small, obscure thing and no one knows what you're doing. You know, you're part of this like club and no one understands you except each other. And there's a lot of things that happen in a smaller community that we're losing or have lost because the sport's big. So my midlife crisis is I'm getting to go back in time to my younger days of disc golf, because every country is basically somewhere along the timeline of where disc golf in the US and even right now, I'd say, you know, Scandinavia, right? It is. So like when I was in Australia and New Zealand, it's basically just like disc golf in the US in the 90s. Similar size fields, similar recognition, about as many people know about the sport in the country percentage wise as knew about it in the 90s. So I get to go back to the 90s in New Zealand and Australia, right? Midlife crisis. I get to be young again. So now I'm in Asia and I'm getting to go to places that are like disc golf in the 80s. That's about where it is in Malaysia. This is disc golf in the 80s out here, or early 80s. Africa is disc golf in the 70s. And so everywhere I go, I'm getting to like go back in time to relive my youth. There's something about a small local club, and like we were like, this is what I say, like back in the early days of the sport, everyone that played was to some extent a misfit. Like nobody played Frisbee golf. Nobody hung out in the park throwing Frisbees all day except us. Nobody understood us except us. Our bosses didn't, our friends didn't, our family didn't, our spouses didn't, our neighbors didn't. Nobody understood what we were doing except each other. So there was this sense of like community that came from being kind of on the outside. Well, that's what's happening here in Malaysia. I mean, everyone in Malaysia, they get together and they understand each other, but no one else understands them. And so that's fun. It's getting to relive that. It's really, wow, it's really neat. It's crazy. Is there any way you could donate? Any way we could donate this for you during your travels? No, you don't need to donate to me. I'm totally fine. I'm traveling with 4 bergs and a and a putter to practice. But my discs are arriving to the next tournament, because at each tournament in Southeast Asia, there's somebody at that tournament that's going to be at the next one that's driving there. So I just leave a box of discs, my actual tournament discs, with them, so I don't have to travel with them. And then when I get to Europe, I actually have a tour bus in Europe, a fully wrapped tour bus waiting for me that I'm going to be traveling around in. So I don't need discs, but they do need discs at the courses here. The places that need the discs, if you contact the Malaysian Disc Golf Club, just go, I think it's Disc Golf Malaysia on Facebook. Contact Eric there. I can tell you for sure, if you get discs to him, if you donate discs, they will get into the hands of players that will, he's going to give them away to people. But with all the countries like that, if you go to Cambodian disc golf, they need this. Look, I can tell you right off the bat, any country that you would consider a developing country, contact the local club through Facebook. Send directly to them. Don't send to some person that just says, oh, I'm sending discs to Asia. Send directly to the club in Asia, and I promise you, every one of these clubs will get the discs to people, and they'll give them away. Then they're not going to be selling them. There's no money in this. So that's where you need to send your discs. That's what they could use. Feel like you're truly living your dream. Please tell me you're as happy as it seems. I am as happy as I seem. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. I'm getting to reap the rewards of something that I worked so hard for. Like we're actually staying at like nice hotels. Okay. Now that might seem like not a big deal, like to stay at nice hotels, except I have stayed on more than 1,000 floors people's floors in my travels doing clinics and tournaments. It's like I paid my dues. I did 500 clinics, or I did 2 short of 500. I was at 498 clinics. I did throwing clinics, free, promoting my teaching. 270 additional clinics for special needs for free, promoting special needs disc golf. Like 400 YouTube or 300 YouTube tutorial videos or something like that before I started monetizing it, right? So I paid my dues. So now I'm like staying at these like nice hotels, and I'm going out to a nice dinner, and it honestly feels weird to me, except when I step back and I think of all the years I put in to get to this point. I'm like, I deserve every bit of it. I worked so hard for this, and I try to keep reminding myself that, because I also feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, because what am I doing staying at this hotel? What am I doing eating at this restaurant? This is obscene to me. But I'm enjoying it. But I'm having to learn how, believe it or not, I'm having to learn how to enjoy it, because it just seems so strange to not be poor playing Frisbee golf. So I am enjoying the life, the travel. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I'm a full-time nomad. Every single thing I own, minus that box of discs, one box of discs that's going to tournaments in front of me, everything I own fits into one backpack. I don't have a storage unit. I don't have property. I don't have a home base. I don't have a box of pictures of photographs somewhere. I literally don't own a single thing in the world that's not this backpack. And I will live this way the rest of my life. I will never own stuff. I will never have a home. I'm going to figure out how to travel the rest of my life, because that's what makes me happy. And now that I can do this, I'm definitely as happy as I seem. Are the courses in Malaysia actually well designed? Are you helping to change them to make them better? No, the courses they're definitely well designed. Most courses, I'll give you one little secret. Most courses kind of design themselves, because you have there's only so many different ways the course can lay itself out. The only way you can really design a course poorly, I think, is if you have holes that are lucky or holes that are repetitive. And then technically, I suppose, holes that are boring. But the courses they're fine. They're definitely shorter and easier because they're made for recreational players. But that's what that's what they're supposed to be. You can't have 700-foot holes out at a country where most of the players are brand new. But the courses are good. There's nothing wrong with them. I played yesterday in Kuala Lumpur at a course, and James, a local Malaysian player, beat me by 5 strokes out on this course. The course in the Rainforest. It was ridiculous. There wasn't bad luck. Like, he just beat me. Don't tell him I told you, though. I don't want him to get a fat head. But yeah, the courses are good, though. When I make it back to the USA, I think it'd be interesting to see how many throws it would take to get all the way across Bonneville Salt Flats. All right, I'm going to tell you all a secret. I can tell you exactly how many throws across Bonneville Salt Flats. It would take 1, and here's why. When we were out at the first Big D in the desert, me, Randy Lom, and my girlfriend Lacey at the time, all 3 of us set the world record for the world's longest roller. We took our discs, we set them on the ground like this, and then the discs, I'll show you what they did. The discs rolled along the ground like this, just wobbling back and forth at the exact speed we were walking. And the 3 of us walked next to our discs. They all basically went to the same speed. And we walked next to our discs. I think it was like 7/10 of a mile before they hit the edge of the lake. They would have theoretically rolled forever had we had the edge of the dry lake bed not hit. So if you were at Bonneville Salt Flats, you could actually set the world roller distance record by simply standing 1 foot behind the person next to you who was attempting the record. Because you basically will hit the end of the lake at the exact same spot, because the wind is going to push you there, and it'll roll the whole distance. So the answer to your question is, it would be a par 2, even if it was like 5 miles long. How about that for useless information 101? Have I figured out the monkey issue yet? I have not figured out the monkey issue. I will explain that for anybody listening, because this is a real thing out here. So when we get here, we got to Singapore first, and we went way out of our way to find this park because we read that there was monkeys up in the trees, right? That like wild monkeys. And we got there and we found monkeys. I posted it on my Scott Stokely Adventure Facebook page. It's the non-disc golf page. We got to see monkeys and it was like unbelievable. And then the next day we were at a course and we saw monkeys in the trees and it was unbelievable. And we were at the Singapore clinic and I told everybody, we got to see monkeys. And everybody there says, and? I'm like, yeah, but there were monkeys. And they're like, yeah, there's monkeys in trees. It's like squirrels in the US. Like the last time, think about the last time you saw a squirrel in a tree and were like mesmerized by it. There's just monkeys in trees, monkeys, gibbons out here. So here is one of the question was, this is an honest question, everybody. This is a real thing. If you throw your disc, your drive, there is a chance that a monkey is going to get curious, crawl down from the tree, grab your golf disc, and take it up into the tree with them. Okay? You can't stop them. You can't prevent them from doing it. You cannot put a fence around the park. Honestly, if you were completely enclosed, the monkeys would find a hole and get in. I mean, they're smart, they're clever, they can climb anywhere. So you're not keeping the monkeys out. There's going to be monkeys on the course, and monkeys will occasionally steal golf discs. That's got to be an accepted thing. There's got to be a rule that says if a monkey steals your golf disc, play it where you last saw it. Group makes a call, something like that. Here's the question. When you're putting some of these courses in, by the way, it is less likely in cities than out in the country. But when we were in Indonesia, we were out in the country. Here's the question. If a player throws their disc and a monkey runs up to the tree with it, you can get your disc back. If you offer that monkey food, hold a banana, candy bar, bag of chips, something like that. If you hold up food for the monkey, there is a chance that the monkey, they're smart. They're going to come down and they're going to give you back that golf disc in exchange for the food. Now, that's a great solution to get your golf disc back the first time it happens. Problem is, monkeys, like I said, are really smart. They will very quickly figure out that if they're hungry, it's a lot easier to steal someone's golf disc than it is to go forage for food, especially if they want something like a candy bar. So the monkey challenge is this: not how to keep the monkeys from stealing discs, how to keep the human monkeys, the humans, from trading a candy bar for a golf disc. Okay, when a monkey steals your $50 Halo Destroyer, and you can get it back for, in Indonesia, it'd be a 5-cent candy bar. How do you convince the humans to not do that and not train the monkeys just to learn that they can steal golf discs in exchange for food? It's a real challenge out here. It's an interesting it's an interesting thing about the golf. Hey, let me go and pitch something while I got all of you here. If you're interested in supporting anything that I'm doing, promoting disc golf around the world, go to scottstokely.net. I have all my Tour Series discs there still: Marvels, Bergs, Lofts, Stalls, Harps. The Harps are great. Assassins, Wizards, and a new one about to be announced. I also have my Universe discs, which is this full color artwork from Creative Rob. All of those are at scottstokely.net. And I'm always taking sign-ups for my 6-month online Become a Complete Disc Golfer class. One more thing. I also have all this full-day disc golf Stokely Method seminars around the U.S. are happening this year because I have coaches teaching for me. I got 3 of them now. So if you go to scottstokely.net, there could be a live seminar near you. The seminars cap, the live ones cap at 6 people, and every single thing I do sells out. So if you're interested, you'd want to get your tickets now, scottstokely.net. All right. Any update on my life story movie? Well, yeah, actually, I do have an update on this. So there is a documentary coming out about me. I just released a teaser for the documentary. And when I say coming out about me, I mean, I've seen the rough draft. It's going to be live in probably less than a month. So it's happening. It's basically done. So there's a full documentary about me. I think it's going to be on Amazon Prime, but we're waiting to hear back. It'll certainly be available for download on my website, I believe. But I'm not doing it. It's actually like a professional done documentary, original music, by a real documentary filmmaker who shot this documentary. So I think the movie's next. Like the movie is the next step in the transition after the documentary, a feature film about me, starring Gannon Burr. We haven't, I haven't really talked to him about it yet, but in my mind, I've already cast Gannon as the role of me. I will be playing the part of Dan the Storkrotic, PDJ number 3 in my movie, if it gets made. And then, fingers crossed, the goal, the end goal, like of this whole thing. This is when I do this. This is when I'm done. I've capped my life's work. Is that my movie is going to be turned into a Broadway musical, Stokely the musical, just like Hamilton, except unlike Alexander Hamilton, I'm doing important stuff for the world and the U.S. Because I'm promoting disc golf. Like I'm not creating a country. I'm promoting disc golf. Way more important than building a country. So that's the end goal, the musical. Once that happens, then there's nothing left to do. But until that happens, I'm going to keep working hard. Do I still have a Stratus? I don't have a Stratus. I'm not throwing any Stratuses. I think the Stratus from Discraft is a fantastic disc. I am throwing the Assassin, which is basically does what the Stratus would do. The Assassin from Gateway. It flies a little farther than a Stratus. It's faster, but similar flights. Scott. Hey, what's up, Riley? Scott, take our Oak Grove course. Non-Sunday wintertime open course. Just rake our Oak Grove. What would you have to shoot for, let's say, 1,000 rating? The original Oak Grove course, 1,000 rating, probably about a 50, I would say 14 or 15 under. I would say 14 under on the baskets we used to play on. Probably 15 under on the well, no, maybe 13 under on the baskets we used to play on, because you're going to get some spit outs. 13, 14 under, probably 15, 16 under for 1,000 rated. It's just the sports evolved to a point. By the way, the original Oak Grove course was 3,600 feet. So it was 150 feet per hole. There were trees, but it wasn't like super wooded, like, a North Carolina course. Like they were basically, most of them were pretty routine approach shots that you're supposed to get. You're not going to get them all, likely, but you're supposed to get most of them. So I would say, honestly, 15 under, probably 1,000 rated. Riley, you better be playing me. You're going to play yourself in it. We can't play ourselves, Riley. We've aged. But Riley was one of my friends from the earliest days of the sport. He's one of the originals. What's your PDJ number, Riley? Got to be like 7,000 or something, right? You're one of the originals. You were there. All right, let's see. James, hey Scott, do any coaching? If you do, where would that be? You almost seem like a plant, because I'm going to try to sell everybody something. Thanks to your question. I have the thing I'm most, yes, I do coaching. I've done more teaching than anyone in the world. This is the most, this is how, the teaching is how I pay my bills. I don't do it playing disc golf. It's teaching disc golf. I have a 6-month online class, Become a Complete Disc Golfer. Sign up at scottstokely.net. A new class starts every month. So if you sign up, there'll be a class starting within 30 days of signing up. It is the thing I'm most proud of right now with my teaching. It's not just like videos of me giving lessons and then instructions on how to practice those things. It's multiple live classes each month. I have 5 or 4 now, I think, trainers doing form reviews. So when you take the class, you'll constantly be uploading an unlimited number of videos of yourself throwing for the things, the steps or drills we're working on, getting form reviews by the coaches, who are absolutely fantastic. And it's a process, right? But the process is you learn something, we add a layer, we add a layer, we add a layer. I have a system that I've built up to where you work on. It takes time, like anything. But you step by step will evolve into throwing correctly. That's what the 6-month online class is. And then I do in-person clinics when I'm available, but that'll be Asia and then Europe this summer. So if you're not in Asia or Europe, you won't get to do the in-person clinics. But I have 3 coaches out there teaching full-day seminars all over the U.S. All of that at scottstokely.net. But I am really proud of my teaching. I'm like, this is something that I've put far more work into than my golf game for years, because as I've gotten older and I've wanted to continue to do disc golf for a living in some form, it's my teaching's really been my focus. I've been obsessed over figuring out the best way to teach this game. Are you going to be at the 2024 Worlds in Lynchburg, Virginia? So I tentatively said that I was going to try to make the Pro Worlds this year, and that and then Pro Worlds next year coming over from Europe. But I don't know for sure. It depends on how it conflicts. So that I don't know. I mean, Lynchburg would be great. Virginia courses are amazing. Riley, oh, Jesus Christ, Riley, 39.48. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you've been playing early 80s, right? Riley's been around forever. Where's the Oak Grove course? That's kind of Atlantic, as there could be numerous Oak Grove courses. Try to be a little more specific. Okay. The original Oak Grove course is in Pasadena, California. The basic here, I'll give you all the 50-cent history of Oak Grove Park if anybody's interested. I love sharing the history. There was this game called Frisbee, and there was the International Frisbee Association, and players from all over the world were going to be coming to California to play the Frisbee Championships, and that they had distance and freestyle and all these different Frisbee games. There was a game people had been playing called Frisbee Golf, but it hadn't really caught on. But they wanted to put a course in the ground, and so they came up with the idea of they found a location where they could put the poles in the ground, which was Oak Grove Park in Pasadena. The tournament, by the way, was at Brookside Park, right next to the Rose Bowl at Oak Grove Park. But the Oak Grove Park would allow them to leave the poles in the ground. That was the big thing. So after the course came out, this is what blew everybody away. After the tournament, Dan Roddick was telling me the story. A couple days later, they were out there playing Frisbee golf, Frisbee at Oak Grove Park. There were other people out there with Frisbees playing who had seen the tournament and then wanted to try it for themselves. And they came out and found that the course was still there. They kept playing. When people started playing, that's when Ed really, I think, the idea of building the basket to improve upon this sport came from. But it started with poles in 75. And between 75 and 76, the basket started going to the ground. It was not put in all at once. The course actually evolved over about a 1-year period. I may get the specifics a little off, but it's something like that. But that's how it happened. 1975, 1976, Pasadena. Why does the PDGA not have a senior tour? At this point of the sport, the evolution, it seems obvious. So there actually is a senior tour coming out. But I don't know the viability of it, because the fact is, this is just the reality. If you run a senior event, the amount of people that will pay to come out or even just come out for free to watch it is very low. It's not none, but it's low compared to the pro division. If you put that tour up on YouTube, it gets far fewer views. It's just one of those things. They probably have I don't know if they have a seniors tour in tennis, but if they did, there's probably would be a bunch of players, Stefan Edberg and Ivan Lendl would probably play in the tournament, and people you've heard of, but Boris Becker. But I don't know if anybody they just far fewer people want to watch it. I mean, it's sports. The thing about sports in general is that we want to see the pinnacle of the human condition. We want to see the peak of what a human being can do, whether it's how fast they run or how hard they can tackle somebody on the field, or what their free throw shooting percentage is, right? But we want to see the best of the best perform. And seniors aren't the best of the best. And so I don't think it'll ever be anything other than a side event. I wish I was wrong. In fact, if I'm wrong, that would be amazing. I would love to be wrong. But I suspect, just based on what I've seen in every other sport, that's kind of the case. How do I adjust my discs as form develops? Yeah, when your form develops, all your discs fly differently. You just have to keep an open mind that a disc doesn't fly a certain way. Every disc flies a very specific way based on every single individual throw that you threw it. It'll be based on the speed it left your hand, the nose angle, how much spin it has on it, how much wobble. and then the conditions, how much wind there is and what direction that wind's blowing and how fast it's blowing. There are so many variables. There's always an adjustment to be made based on a lot of different parameters. So as your form develops, it's no different than if you went out to a course and you had a 10-mile-an-hour tailwind instead of no wind. You have to make adjustments because your disc flies differently because something changed. So just don't get wired to how your discs fly. You have to always be evolving how they fly for every single throw based on any parameter, form being one of them. Am I still in Southeast Asia? I am. I'm in Kuala Lumpur right now. We'll be in Asia for 3 more months. Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Japan, and as of right now, check this out, y'all. There's a really good chance I'm going to get to go to China, which is crazy. But they just dropped their strictest quarantine policy recently, so the country has opened up more. Right now, today, if I wanted to go to China, I cannot buy a visa. I don't believe it's open to just tourism visas. However, they have opened up to family and business visas, but it's an application process. You have to apply to show that I have a family member there or I have business dealings there. Well, there are people in the Chinese or Beijing Disc Golf Club, I can't remember which one, who, because I'm there doing clinics and teaching disc golf, because that's, if I'm going over there, I'm going to teach disc golf while I'm there. They said they believe there's a high probability they can get me a work visa. And if they do, I'm going to be going to China in April. I really want to go so bad. So fingers crossed on China. Am I taking notes for a second book? No, better than that. I've actually basically completed the first draft of the second book. So the second book has been mostly put together loosely, but that still means it's like at least a year away. All the rewrites. But the second book's coming out. This is the one where y'all read it and don't like me, I think, because this is basically, it starts with right before I left the sport for 13 years, and it'll end with me coming back into the sport and going out on tour. But my time away from the sport was not the most pleasant time in my life. It was a pretty dark period. Not all of it, but when things went bad, y'all know my history if you follow me. I had a little problem with substance abuse for a little while when I was away. Divorce, business failing, foreclosure, just life. I was not succeeding in life. Came back to the sport to find myself and save my life, basically, in 2014. But I didn't live my best life then, but I'm honest. I'm always honest with y'all. So when I share that book, I'm going to share the bad stuff, including the bad stuff, things that I'm not proud of. So there's a redemption story here, but the whole book is not going to be about look how great I do or how smart I am. It's going to be about look how human I am. I have the same failings as everybody. I turn the volume up on everything. If I succeed, I succeed wildly. When I fail wildly. I don't do anything average, apparently. So anyways, what are the goals in these developing countries? So I would like to do my little part. It's a really small part because the people in these countries with the boots on the ground, they're the ones doing all the work. But I want to just help do what I can to grow disc golf everywhere in the world. There's no reason we shouldn't be the biggest sport on planet Earth. By the way, I'm not just saying this because I love disc golf. If you follow, I'm going to give you all a logic path as to why I think disc golf should be the biggest sport in the world. All right. So basically, we are golf. Everything that golf offers, disc golf offers, right? I mean, all the personal challenges, the exercise, the camaraderie, the competition, but the zen of the game, the joy of experiencing that one great shot that keeps you coming back, the personal journey of improvement. We offer everything golf does. We also we take up less space. We are more affordable. We're, all these, we have more variety of courses. But basically, we offer everything that golf does. Now, here's the thing about ball golf. Among people that can afford ball golf in places where ball golf is popular, among people that can afford to play the sport, the percentage of people that play is super high. I don't know what it is, but I'll bet you 30% of people that can afford ball golf play ball golf. Maybe it's 20%, but it's a high percentage of people that can afford it. But 20 to 30% of people in the US don't play ball golf because most people can't afford it. But among people that can play the game, who have the option of playing the game, it's 20 to 30%. This tells me that because we play the same game, because we're the exact same humans, they have more income, big deal. We're the same humans, that I believe 20 to 30% of people who can afford to play disc golf will play. Well, everybody can afford to play disc golf. Therefore, I would say 20 to 30% of people who have access to this game will ultimately play it. And if disc golf was in a developing country of 100 million people, if the game was affordable, I don't see any reason why 20% of those people out of 100 million, why would the percentages be any different? So 20 million people should play disc golf in a country of 100 million people. Well, according to my logic, then I see disc golf being played by 1.5 billion people. Why not? Why shouldn't everybody in the world enjoy this game? And as it becomes more affordable, I think that's what's going to happen. So disc golf, I think, based on that logic, not just because it's my favorite game, but based on that logic, I don't see any reason why disc golf is not the biggest game on planet Earth at some point in the future. I think it's going to be number one. That's my honest opinion. So I'm just doing my one little itty bitty part to be part of it. That's all. How is the food? Any unique dish, Adriana? And I enjoyed. The food is. I'm sorry. The food is unbelievable. Like, everything is good. Everything is spicy. I mean, if you like Malaysian food, you'll love it. If you don't like Malaysian food, you'll hate it. It's like Indian food, right? If you like Indian food, you're gonna like the Indian food in India. If you don't like Indian food, you're gonna have a hard time in India. The food's perfect. But as far as unique dishes, I have no idea what I'm eating. I have no idea. Like, most of the time, we just look at the menu and point to a picture. I think it looks like chicken, but it could be lamb. And I see like chili peppers in there, but they may or may not be a lot of them. And by may or may not be, what I mean is there's a lot of them. It's very spicy, but yeah, it's great. Everything's the desserts, absolutely wild. If you go to my Scott Stokely Adventure page, there's a reel on there of a dessert restaurant menu. I took a little 20-second video flipping through the menu. There's more than 100 desserts at this little dessert shop. 100 desserts, every one of them amazing. So the desserts are it's a lot more than just like cake and ice cream. There's a lot more variety of desserts. I think by the way, there's so many different cultures here. I think that's why there's enough cultures here where there are places that just serve Indian dessert, Malaysian dessert, Chinese dessert, Korean dessert, Thai dessert, of American desserts. When did the second book start? Well, the story starts where the first one left off, which is my daughter's born. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with my life now because I'm a professional Frisbee golfer with no skills whatsoever outside of throwing Frisbees. So it starts there. But as far as when it's going to be out, it's going to be at least a year. Like, there's so much more work involved in writing a book. Like, if you're Stephen King, I think you sit down at your typewriter at a cabin in Maine and you just write a story, and then your editor makes it good, and then you write another book next week. But for like normal people like me, who's not a writer, I've written 3 books, co-authored all 3 of them, but 3 books. There's writing, there's rewriting, there's rewriting, there's rewriting, editing, rewriting, editing, rewriting. There's so much work involved to turn the original thing into something good that it takes forever. Curious of the best course in the Sydney area. You'll be there in 3 weeks and we'll have a chance to get one round in somewhere. Honestly, I can't tell you where the best course in the Sydney area is. I only played one and I'm trying to remember it, and it's honestly kind of a blur. It all is blurring together a little bit. Sydney, by the way, unbelievably amazing town. They say if you look it up, it's the most culturally diverse town in the world, followed by Toronto, then Singapore. Sydney's great. It's expensive, but it's really good. But contact here. Go to I don't know if you can even post on the Sydney Disc Golf Club. A lot of them are run by the clubs. Only the club posts. It's Australia Disc Golf Shenanigans. That's the page. Post Australia Disc Golf Shenanigans. They'll tell you the best course to play. This guy is YOLOing all through life. Take me with you. Send me your resume. It's 2023. You don't know it's possible. Do I have a Baobab ace yet? But why, sir, would you think that I'm throwing the Baobab? I haven't announced that yet. When Scott Stokely the musical happens, you'll conduct it. Brad, I would love it if you conducted the musical. That would be the goal. Do you want to live in Manhattan for a year? Because we're going full Broadway. Not off Broadway. I want to be right on Broadway and 42nd Street. Yeah, it's my goal. People think I'm joking when I say that. My favorite RPM disc. My favorite RPM disc is the KUALA LUMPUR. That is the. Hey, look at this. Check this out. That is the Malaysian. I can rotate. The Malaysian Disc Golf Club. Not Malaysian. The Kuala Lumpur Disc Golf Club. What's up, everybody? I was playing with them and I left them to do my live stream. But then when I'm finished here, I'm going to go back and finish my round with them. But KUALA, it's basically like a Comet. It's an understable mid-range disc, but when it starts losing speed, it doesn't fade hard. It actually kind of keeps turning at slower speeds, which is a very rare quality in a disc. But the KUALA does that. It's not for every shot. Sometimes you want to fade, but there are a million mid-range discs, especially drivers, especially. There's a million discs out there that turn and then fade. Very rare to find one that turns and keeps the turn. So it's not that it's better than a disc that fades. It's for a specific shot, but it's a very good disc for that specific shot. And hello, Little Miss Disc Golf. We miss you guys too. What's my ultimate foursome? Pick 3 card mates. Let's see. Well, I would say 3 supermodels, but it's 2023 and people are going to even me making that joke, I'm going to get 4 negative comments for it. So let's see. 3 supermodels. I'm just kidding. Maybe. Let's see though. Disc golf card mates. This changes all the time. I never know who to pick. Let me go with, right now at this point in time, I'm going to go with, oh God, that's so hard. Oh my God. This should be so easy. 3 disc golfers. I mean, the easy answer is I want to play with Ricky, Paul, and Simon, because then I know I'm on the lead card. But I would say I would probably play around with, oh my God, this is impossible. I get asked this all the time. Let's go. We're going to go with my new friend, Eric, from Johor, Malaysia, because he has done so much to build disc golf in Malaysia. I'd want to shoot with him. I'll shoot with Sam Ferrens, who was my biggest rival in the 80s growing up, who I haven't golfed with in 30 years. And I would play with Jim Kenner, who's been my biggest supporter over the years. He's the owner of Discraft. I don't have relationships with either Innova or Discraft, but I'm going to go with Sam, Jim Kenner, and Eric. Are you planning on teaching some people around the world to coach the Scott system? I am. There's not a lot. I mean, so first off, yes, if you take my 6-month online class, there's a process to get certified as a Stokely method instructor. The only path to get there is to either do a full day seminar with me or do the 6-month online class. There's no shortcut to learning the method. You have to go through the process of working and then helping coach people for an extended period of time, because I have a very specific way of teaching. The Stokely method is not the end result. What I believe is the correct way to throw a golf disc is no different than any other teacher's correct way to throw a golf disc. We all agree on the right and the wrong way to throw, 98%. The Stokely method is a specific method of teaching to get there. because I don't teach the end result. I don't teach this is where your foot turns, this is when your shoulders go, this is when you weight transfer. If you've ever watched a video that says to do that and you noticed it didn't work for you, well, I noticed also that that doesn't work. Instead, I teach a process of doing certain things that you must do and then allowing your body to do the things that it will automatically do. And once you're doing that thing and your body's automatically doing the next parts, then we add another thing that you do. It's a very specific process, but it's the best process in the sport. It works for everybody. So my 6-month class is at scottstokely.net. That's what we do there. Are you planning on teaching some people? Oh, let's see. Hey, no matter how hard you try, you can't release a flat putt. Any tips? Yeah, I'll give you a great tip right now. This is a great tip for everybody. So if you can't putt flat, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you're doing a push putt. Because if you're doing a spin putt, the majority of people can putt spin putts flat. So here's the thing. When you do a push putt, your wrist and elbows locked in place. Okay? So you start with the disc flat at what you believe is the release point. This is locked in place. You come down, you do this, yet the disc is nose down. Why does that happen? Well, the reason it happens is if you watch a super slow-mo video on your push putts that you started flat, the disc does not leave your hand here. The disc actually leaves your hand about here. Well, if your disc leaves your hand here, look at that nose down, right? So what happens is if you're here, you do a push putt, you let go, that disc is now flying nose down. So what that means is you have to start, because your wrist is locked in place on a push putt, you have to start with your wrist locked up. This position right here with your wrist is what will result in a flat putt, because this putt here is flat when the disc leaves your hand right there. Now, if you are starting the disc here, but the disc is coming out nose down, without watching you throw, I can tell you with 100% certainty exactly why it's happening. And if you go shoot a video of yourself, a slow motion video, you will see this as well. If you're starting the disc here, but the disc is not coming out nose down or coming out flat, what's happening is you're coming here, and at this moment right here, you're doing this. Yoink. Come out here. Now the reason you're doing that is because you have a habit of the disc being in a certain position when it leaves your hand. And you are, without meaning to, tweaking the disc down here at the bottom of the swing. So what you have to do, the only way to correct this, is you have to slow that putt down and practice shorter putts at a distance where the nose isn't going down. Basic idea is this. If you put the nose up here, lock your wrist in place, 75% chance that fixes the problem. If this doesn't fix the problem because you're coming down here and then tweaking it here before you putt, you have to take that putt in, shorten it until you get to a distance where you're not doing this little tweak down here. Trust me, when you're 3 feet away from a basket and you're putting to a basket right here, you can do this really slow. Your wrist stayed locked in place and it didn't happen. But when you do it at 30 feet, you come down here, yoink, it tweaks. What you have to do is practice those shorter putts and then slowly increase your distance from there. It's the only way to fix it. But that is why that's happening to your putt. Assuming it's a push putt, which is about 90% chance it is, if that's what you're, based on your question. That's how you fix the nose down putt on the push putt. And it's also why it's happening. What's your favorite up and coming talent? As far as players, I would say Cole Redolin is about to blow up. He's about to enter the stratosphere of disc golf. There's no reason why he doesn't win a Pro Tour event next year. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if he does. The up and coming talent, I don't want to say, it's hard to say up and coming because it's in the FPO because she's already so good. But even though she's so good, she is going to elevate to the next level. It is 2023 is the year of Ellen Hansen. I think I think she's going to be the big breakout star this year. Kristen's going to win her share of tournaments. Paige and Jennifer are still going to be up there. I mean, Manduhanu's going to be up there. I'm not knocking anybody else in the field. Nobody, please don't get mad at me, rest of the FBO division. But I think the player that's going to make the biggest jump is Ella. She's my pick. How is the weather in Kuala Lumpur? The weather out here is exactly the same as it is every day of the year. It's just whether it's raining or not. It's always warm. Right now, it's beautiful. I don't know Celsius. I'm ignorant. I'm so sorry, but it's probably 80 degrees. It's not hot. It's nice. It's shorts and a t-shirt weather, but I'm looking at the 5 players in the disc golf club. 2 of them are wearing three of them are wearing long pants. So it's beautiful. But it is like yesterday we got dumped on. When it rains here, it rains. It does not lightly sprinkle. Like, it just dumps. But it might only last 5 minutes too. All right, Matthew Timothy Kissel, you picked up 2 of my bergs for a berg-only tournament this weekend on a short course. Any pointers or secret berg magic in Contra to do well? So there's no secret to the berg. I mean, you don't throw them any differently than any other disc. So you're not changing anything about your game. What's great about the bergs is just how they don't fly well. And that's a good thing. You don't want a disc that flies on mid-range shots, on short throws. You don't want a disc that glides. It's harder to control a disc that glides on short shots. Well, it doesn't matter, on any length shots. But a disc that doesn't glide won't fly far, so you can't throw it on the long holes. But the less a disc glides, the more control, the smaller margin for error you get. So I would say that is probably the biggest thing. You're not changing anything. Just go practice with them. But yeah, the berg's my favorite disc in the world. As much as I love my Marvel putter. And by the way, that's great that you bought 2 of my bergs at scottstokely.net. All my Tour Series discs are at scottstokely.net. That's where you buy all this cool stuff with supporting my tour and my promotion of disc golf around the world, and my promotion of special needs events. Even the fact that I give away all my prize money. I have a tournament director. I give the name of a special needs organization that they send all my prize money directly to that organization. But the reason I can do that is because of the money I make teaching and off my store. So I think when you buy stuff with my name on it, it ultimately, a large percentage of it winds up not with me even. It winds up with people that could use it more. But thanks for buying my discs. What do I do to keep my body prepared for tournaments and maintain your ability to play disc golf besides throwing discs? So it's funny you should mention that. I'm about to be launching a fitness class with Disc Golf Strong. We're about to announce it. So number one, and I know this is going to sound so politically incorrect, but I don't care because it's about health and about quality of life, is that I don't believe I feel as good or perform as well when I have additional weight on me that I don't need. So number one is I keep the calorie reduction too low. I keep the carbs low. I'm not on some keto diet or something like that, but I have a very specific thing I do as far as foods that I cut out to reduce the carbs, just to make sure I keep the weight off. That is, to me, that is more important than having strong muscles. But strong muscles help. So in addition to that, during the season, I was working out. During the preseason, preparing, I was working out hard. I mean, I was aggressively lifting weights 4 days a week, 2 hours a day, 4 days a week. I mean, I was hitting it really hard, 200 grams of protein a day, while existing not at a calorie deficit. Well, at a calorie deficit until I got to where I had very little body fat, and my body was in the best shape it could possibly be in. The last couple months, I've been lazy. I mean, I'm not eating like milkshakes every meal or anything crazy, but I have been lazy because I'm also human and I also want to eat crappy food. I don't live in a state of trying to be perfect with my diet all the time. This is the off season, but February 1st is my day, because February 1st gives me 3 months to go into what I'm calling training camp to prepare for the Euro Tour, and that's going to be back to a lot more exercise and a lot stricter diet. So that's what I do. So, but the answer to the question, the big answer is yes, I do something. you can't, especially as you get older, you can't just not do anything. You will be better if you take steps. Things that you could get away with when you're in your 20s, you can't really get away with when you're in your 50s anymore. You know, it's like I could eat anything I wanted to when I was in my 20s. I never put on a pound. Now, if I get lazy for 3 days, I look in the mirror, I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like, I drink a couple extra milkshakes and eat, you know, I eat bread at breakfast a couple days in a row, and next thing you know, I'm like, I look in the mirror and I can see it. I can literally see the difference. So when you get older, you have to be better. You got to take care of your body more. It's a pain in the butt, but it's the off season now. So I've gotten lazy in the off season somewhat, but that comes to an end on February 1st. Where am I going next? I am going to, from here in Kuala Lumpur. I'm going to be in. I can't remember the name of the town, but we're going to be in Malaysia for another week. But then we're going to be in Thailand after that, and then Cambodia, Vietnam, Japan, maybe China, then Europe for the Euro Tour. Dutch Napier, thank you for the old instructional videos you did. That's the first DVD you will learn the proper way to throw. Keep being awesome. Dude, thank you so much. I'm very proud of the DVDs I released in the early 2000s, and I wrote the first book on disc golf throwing technique in the early 2000s. I'm extremely proud of it because there was nothing before it. In hindsight, when I look back, there's things that I got wrong, for sure. And there's other things that I didn't necessarily get wrong, but I teach differently now. Like I have a far better way of teaching those things. So I might have had the right information, but I didn't teach it correctly back then. My teaching today is like basically, here's what it was. Well, I was an MA3 teacher back then. But an MA3 disc golfer, if no one in the world has played disc golf, it's like the best disc golfer in the world, right? MA3 is better than anyone in the world who's never played before. Well, nobody was teaching disc golf. I mean, not nobody. There were people that were teaching, but traveling around the country doing throwing clinics, like teaching as much as I was professionally. I was an MA3 player, best in the world. But now I am a DGPT quality teacher. So compared to how I taught before, it's night and day. No comparison. Talk about being Mr. Hollywood on the course. Mr. Hollywood. Boy, that's almost that's borderline an insult. I know that's not the way you intended it, but I'm just thinking about Hollywood now. It's like they've gone bonkers over there. I don't know about those people. And actually, I was born in Hollywood. I was born in Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital. But Hollywood is like, that's the last place I'd want to be right now. They're losing it. I think what you mean is like kind of being this like level of celebrity that is new. I'm enjoying every second of kind of being a name that people recognize now. I hate the term celebrity, but it is the definition within our sport. I'm enjoying it because I played in obscurity for so many years that it's fun to get the attention I'm getting now. Like the minute I stop enjoying this, then like why am I doing this? Like I have no sympathy whatsoever for anybody who is famous who complains about the fame. It's like, shut the hell up. Cry me a river. I can't stand you. Someone like some actor who's like, oh, I can't even go out to dinner without getting hounded by like the people asking for autographs. And I'm like, you make like $15 million a year. You're married to a supermodel, asshole. Shut up. Complain to the people in the real world about how rough your life is, right? I hate that. I will never complain about the attention I get on the disc golf course. People are like, I'm sorry to bother you for an autograph. And I'm like, no, I am so happy and flattered by it. I love it. Absolutely love it. But here's the thing that's cool. I have the perfect level of celebrity because I can go to a disc golf course. I get my ego stroked and I get all the stuff that, I love the attention. It's fun. But I only love the attention in doses because when I leave the disc golf course and I go out to dinner, nobody knows who I am. That's perfect. That's the perfect level. I get the best of both worlds because I get to actually live a life that is, it's right in the middle. I mean, I just kind of made fun of the people that are mad that they don't get to live that life, but they're also compensated tens of millions of dollars, you know, in exchange for having to put up with signing autographs in a restaurant. If I was getting paid tens of millions of dollars, yeah, I would be fine with paparazzi waiting for me outside the restaurant. I would have no problem with that whatsoever. But given a choice, I like the middle ground. I'll forego the tens of millions of dollars. I make enough money to live. I'm happy, and I don't have to get harassed in public. I saw you had a Stokely disc golf cart in one of your videos in Malaysia. How hard is it easy traveling international? Oh no, I'm not traveling with a golf cart. My golf cart I gave away before I left the U.S. They are available, the Stokely golf carts at Gotta Go Gotta Throw. So if you just search for Gotta Go Gotta Throw golf carts, the Stokely carts are available. But I'm not traveling. I'm traveling with a backpack. Literally, I have a backpack. I've got 4 bergs and 1 marble that I practice with between tournaments, and I have 1 box of discs that's my practice stock and throwing stock that's arriving at tournaments in front of me. And it's a box of discs. I mean, it's 25 discs. But I can't carry that because I got everything I own in a backpack. And I mean, by the way, everything I own, I don't have a storage unit, nothing. Everything I own is in 1 backpack. That's the extent of my worldly possessions. And it is the only thing I'm going to own, aside from like any type of business stuff, like disc business, clothing. You know, I mean, business stuff is a different thing. But as far as personal possessions, my intention is to never own anything that I can't fit into a backpack for the rest of my life. We have 2 weeks to get to the tournament in Thailand, and because we have backpacks, we get to go wherever we want. We don't have to make plans. We don't need reservations. We can get on a train. If we're on a train, and I'm not kidding, we do this all the time. If we're on the train and we look at something, hey, there's a national park, we're going to be at the next exit. Cool. Then we just get off the train, and then we take a cab to the hotel we find on Google in the national park. Like, we live our life so we can live that free. So we don't own stuff. That's not what you asked. I know I kind of got off on a rant there. Sorry, but yeah, that doesn't go. Golf cart doesn't work. Who is the best disc golfer right now? MPO and FPO, in my opinion. Well, I mean, okay, so Kristen Tatar right now is the level that Kristen's playing right now is the highest level of female disc golf in the history of disc golf. Paige has more accolades. You know, Paige, because she, you know, as the sport evolves, gets more competitive, the top best players, the players are going to get better and better, but the number of wins and titles is going to get smaller and smaller because there's more competition. It's just the way it is. So Paige, you know, was amazing for, you know, during her era. And then, well, her era is still going on. She's not over yet. Paige is still at the top of her game. But the level Kristen's playing right now, I think is the highest level there is for now. It'll get surpassed. By the way, it could be surpassed by Paige. Paige maybe has a fire lit under her and she's training harder than ever. And Paige might take it to another level. But right now it's Kristen. As far as men, it's really tough. It's like, how do you bet against Paul? I just, like, as good as Simon's playing and Ricky, I mean, Ricky's and Paul are obviously neck and neck, but I don't know. It's just, there's this thing about Paul that is Paul. What makes Paul Paul? Like, I don't think Paul's ready to give it up yet. Honestly, like, but I'll tell you this, there are so many players close to him. Right now, the 50th best player in the world could win the world championships, and nobody's really shocked. So that's how deep the field is. But how do you not say Paul? It's still Paul. It's still Paul's world. You know, right? I mean, he won worlds. Show them your old push putt, left foot forward, full swing. So I used to, back in the old days, because we were inventing the game. By the way, there's nothing wrong with this putt. It follows all the rules of a push putt. But I would putt left foot forward, and I would either come back to my knee, or I'd come back past my knee and I would putt like that. Basically, it's the Jake Hebbenheimer putt is what Jake's doing now. You know, and of course, I didn't invent that putt. I think I might have learned it from Joe Orsino. But before Joe Orsino, to the best of my knowledge, Dave Dunapace and John Jewell had experimented with the left foot forward putt. This all happened when the Super Puppy came out. Super Puppies looked basically like birds. Before the Super Puppy, discs were Whammo discs, heavier. Whammo Frisbees, heavier. And that is not a viable putt. You couldn't do a push putt with an old Whammo Frisbee. Like, that's just not how you putt a Frisbees. But when they made the Puppy, it was so small and so dense, then that changed the whole game. That the push putt was invented because the equipment allowed for it. Let's see. Have you met any hidden gem players in your travels that might be good enough to play in the Pro Tour one day? Jackie Chan, hands down, easily. Jackie Chan could be a world champion. Easily. That kid is so good. He's so talented. Yeah. I mean, he easily, if he went out on the Pro Tour, would elevate his game. He's like 995 now. If he went out on the Pro Tour, he would be, within a year or two, he'd be 30 ratings points higher, just because he's actually now competing against the best in the world on those courses. Sky's the limit for the kid. Any advice for a 20-plus year player who's never played a sanctioned event, is nervous about playing one for the first time? Yeah, so here's the best advice I can give about this. And it's a little different than the advice people give, because everyone says, oh, just go have fun. Oh, who cares how you do? But as soon as you say who cares how you do, you're leaving the possibility for playing badly, right? All right. Well, how about instead of leaving the possibility for playing badly or doing something as ignorant as assuming you're going to play well, how about if I said you're going to suck your first tournament? Okay, there you go. Doesn't mean you're going to suck your first tournament, but let's just say you're going to suck your first tournament. All right, what does sucking at your first tournament look like? You throw a bad score? Does anybody care? Well, no. Are you going to throw some bad shots? Yes, 100%. You're going to throw some terrible shots. Does anybody care? No. Like, what does it look like? Does anybody, let's say you finish last. Does anybody even know who finished last? Or is everybody looking to see who won the tournament? They're all looking who won the tournament. I think the best thing you can do to get over that anxiety of our nerves playing the first time is don't worry about what's going to happen. Just look at and say, hey, what does that bad thing look like if it happens? Just assume it's going to happen. And then when you go, hey, and it's not that bad, well, then why be nervous? There's no fear of what happens if you play badly, because you've already just assumed you're going to play badly. And by the way, it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you go ahead and accept the fact that your first tournament is probably going to be tough, well, then you have less anxiety, you have less nerves. As a result, you'll play better. You'll probably play your worst if you're totally panicking over playing badly. So don't do that. Just take a more objective, rational, reasonable approach and start with worst case scenario. But the worst case scenario is not that bad. Who cares? By the way, I did this when I went back out on the DGPT tour last year. I had this fear, what happens if I'm the worst player on tour, right? Well, it turns out I wound up being about average. I was middle of the pack. But I had this fear over what happens if I'm the worst player out there. But then when I looked at it, I said, well, if I am the worst player out here, what does that look like? Is anybody going to think worse of me? No. Is anybody going to dislike me? No. Is anybody going to stop coming to my classes? No. Is my girlfriend going to leave me? No. So when I started looking at the worst case scenario, I went, why am I nervous? The worst case scenario is not that bad. So that's my advice. Does your life partner play disc golf with you ever? Adriana has never played a disc golf hole before. She is my camera person. She is walking around, enjoying nature, enjoying the experience. She's not into playing sports. It's not her thing. She loves watching me play. She watches disc golf when I'm sleeping. If she wakes up in the middle of the night, Like she'll be watching disc golf on the computer. So she loves the sport of disc golf. I mean, she really has fallen in love with the sport to the point where she knows, like when we go to Europe, she will recognize more people by face than I will, because she will have watched far more disc golf than me over the last number of years. So she loves it, but she doesn't, playing's not her thing. Hey, Scott, what drills to teach someone to engage hips with the backhand drives? So don't worry about engaging the hips. And before you cut that soundbite out and promote it that says that he says that hips aren't important, Stokely's the worst teacher in the world, I am not saying that hips aren't important. What I'm saying is hip engagement will happen automatically if you plant your foot first. If that plant foot hits the ground before your hips have started rotating, your hips will automatically engage at the right time. It happens automatically. Okay, I'll give the 2 to 5 second version. You are a whip, like a big bull whip. Your foot is the handle of the whip. Your fingertips are the tip of the whip. The way you get the tip of the whip to crack, the way you break the speed of sound of the tip of the whip is not by worrying about any other part of the whip. The way you do it is by putting the whip in the right position, and the handle of the whip goes first. If the handle of the whip goes first, every other part of the whip will get to the spot it's supposed to at the right time, automatically accelerate, crack. It's not that every other part of the whip isn't important. It's that you don't control every single part of the whip. If you put a little mark at every foot on the whip and said, when do you engage mark 4? When does mark 7 pass your ear? No, you don't do any of those things. You do the handle first. Trust the physics will accelerate from handle to tip. If your foot hits the ground first, before any other part of your body has begun rotating forward, the whip will accelerate foot to fingertip in the correct order. So hips are super important, but the way you engage your hips is not with your hips, it's by planting your foot first. And then you can use words like engaging your hips like as buzzwords for teaching, but that isn't how you do it. You do it by planting first. Show us the most recent scabs you have on your body. If you're clean, show us your most recent scar. I don't think I have any scabs on my body. I have not been very scabby, knock on wood, yet. My most recent scar. God, I almost feel like I'm not having fun now because I don't know if I have any scars. Let me think. Let's see. My brain is scarred because they put corn in dessert. So I'm still scarred. I'm emotionally scarred from that. How about that? Does that count? I'm emotionally scarred. I can't. Here. I'll tell you my most recent scar. I played the course in Malaysia 2 days ago. James, a player out here, a Malaysian player who's in his, gonna guess mid 40s. Forgive me, James, if I get it wrong, but I think his mid 40s. They all brought me out because they wanted to see Scott Stokely disc golf, and James beat me by 5 strokes. So I'm emotionally scarred from that, but those are scars you can't see. They're in here. When you go to Japan, are you going to hike Mount Fuji? I can't hike Mount Fuji. I can hike up anything. I cannot hike down more than about 1,500 feet of elevation down before my knees start to hurt. And then within 500 more feet, they're just excruciating and throbbing. And Mount Fuji, I can climb up. I can still climb 14. I mean, I've climbed, I think about a dozen 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado, but the last few, I couldn't get back down, or I've obviously made it back down, but excruciating back down because of how badly my knees hurt. So my knees don't let me hike down anymore. So my plan actually this winter, originally 3 years ago, I told Adriana that I was climbing Kilimanjaro this winter. My plan was to go climb Kilimanjaro, 19,000 feet. It's just hiking. It's no technical climbing, but it's like 19,000 feet over like 8 days up. I think 8 days up, 3 or 4 days down. I had to rule it out, not because I couldn't make it up Kili, but because I can't. My knees won't let me come back down. So I've had to check that off of the list of things I'll ever get to do. So I can't do it. I would love to though. Simon Simon, Eagle, and Calvin. Just been doubles partner versus the remaining two. You know, oh my God, they are all so close. I'm gonna make it easy because I'm not gonna say who I think is better of the three because I'm not sure there is a better of the three right now. I mean, but I'll take Simon just because he's the person I'm like he's my closest friend in that group. Although I've gotten to know Calvin pretty well in the last year, and he's amazing. He's really, really funny. Like, the minute you get to know him, he's just about the funniest person on tour. You just kind of have to get to know him well enough for him to like let it out. But once he does, he's like he'll make you piss yourself laughing, like when you're out with him. Next time I'm near Tampa, I'd love to do some charity work with you if you have time. I love what you do for local charities. Yeah, I would love to do anything. I'll do anything for the charities and the groups I work with. That's one of my favorite things. I make a lot of money teaching disc golf, and I make not say quotes on a lot, but I make a good living teaching disc golf, and I make money off my store. I do that so I can give away a lot of the stuff I do. Like for instance, all my clinics in Asia are free to locals because the dollar is so strong against like the ringgit in Malaysia, for instance, that I'm not charging locals. I charge the expats, like players from Europe and the US that are here like on work contracts, making US Western money, then I can charge normal clinic prices. But that allows me to give out the clinics for free to locals. So I do a lot of stuff for free because I can make money over here, so I can give it away over there. It's pretty fun. How did my nighttime adventure hike go? All right, so let me make sure that the golfers are about to come around. The rest, no, I think I got a few more minutes. Yeah, so let me explain what he's asking about. So we took a train. No, it wasn't a train. We took a Grab. It's like Uber, but we went out to the actual middle of the rainforest, out an hour from Malacca and 2 hours from Kuala Lumpur. Like we were out in the rainforest, and it's like the real deal out here. Like there are still wild tigers in the rainforest. They're rare, but they're out there. There are black panthers out there. A little bit less rare are cobras and coral snakes and vipers, which are all poisonous. There are sun bears. All of these things will murder you. In fact, all of these things every year kill people. And we were going to go for a hike in the morning. You are not allowed by law to go hiking without a guide, because so many people that go when they were going hiking without a guide into the rainforest just simply never came back. They would get lost and they would die, or they would get killed in the rainforest. But people were dying, so they need a guide. So we arranged some caves up there. We got some local guys to take us to these caves, but they told us, they said, you have to, when you do these hikes, you need to be back by 4 p.m. because once evening comes, that's when all the predators come out. It's like, oh, that's great. So we're going to be surrounded by things that want to eat you or poison you. But they're all sleeping, so we're fine, right? So perfect. Go on this cave hike. It was amazing. But they also offered a guided nocturnal hike where you actually go out there. And one of the reasons you go out at night is because then you could actually maybe get to see some wildlife. Except that includes all the predators. And it's like, is it safe? And, they're local. So, of course, they're like, oh, yeah, you'll be fine. They were telling us stuff. They're like, oh, if you go on this hike, it's great. You can hear the rainforest. It's so alive. It's super loud. You hear all the monkeys and all the insects and all the everything, the crickets. It's super loud. And they go, you don't have to worry about a thing unless the forest goes dead silent. If it goes dead silent, that's when the predators are near. It's like, that's a real thing. Like you're out there hiking at night in the rainforest, and all of a sudden it gets silent, and that means within a couple hundred meters is a panther or a tiger, right? So we're like, yeah, like obviously we're gonna go do this, right? This sounds like fun. So they took us out at night. They had a tiny little light so you could see the ground, but that's important because all of those 3 varieties of snakes will slither away from you if they know that you're coming. But if you step on a cobra, Like, it's no joke. If you step on a cobra, the likelihood that you live is low. You're probably getting bitten. If you get bitten, you're probably going to die. So you kind of need to see where you're walking, right? So they had a small light. But then once we get to this, like, this kind of clearing in the rainforest, there's still trees and stuff, they shut the lights off so we could actually get to experience the sounds and everything. And, you know, just don't move because you don't want to go wandering around. You might step on a snake or something. So you stay in one spot, trusting that the snakes aren't going to come to you, and the lights are off. And we were in the pitch black in the rainforest for I don't know how long. Unbelievable experience. Unbelievable. It was so interesting. There are glow-in-the-dark fungus out there. So one of the guides walked around and was picking fungus, either these little fungus leaves or like a little branch that had fungus growing on it, but it glows in the dark, like Avatar type stuff, right? Not quite that bright, you can't read by it or something, but it's clearly glowing. So there's like glowing fungus, but it's just, it was wild because it's not like a zoo or an organized park. This is actually like the real thing, and that was like very special. A little bit nervous, I'll be honest. I was nervous until we got back, because it's, I won't say it's dangerous, but it's not undangerous, and it was amazing. So that was our night hike, but it was exciting. It was special. We'll do it again. I mean, I'm totally into it. I think I think I hear golfers. I think they're getting close. So I got just a few more minutes. You have an MCL tear, MCL tear from bad form foot planting. What tips do you have to avoid this? I'm going to give you a tip. It's going to sound like a non-tip, but it's not a non-tip. It's the exact correct tip. The way you're going to injure yourself with your foot plant is by intentionally placing your foot down on the ground at a intentional angle, whether angle on the toes or angle where the toes pointing. You cannot put your foot in the right place consciously. Okay? Your subconscious does this for you automatically. All right, I'm going to get deep here, everybody, so forgive me for a second, but I'm going to go deep. Everyone knows that our knees suck, right? I mean, our knees are the most fragile, pathetic joint in our entire body. The only reason we survived as a species with this joint that takes literally like 5 pounds, 2 kilos, whatever, of lateral pressure on the knee can like blow your knee out, right? Like 100,000 years ago, if you blow your knee out, you can't hunt anymore and you died. Like, you cannot blow your knee out. It's an evolutionary thing that a part of our brain that thinks way past faster than the conscious part, every single step we take, whether we're on sand, rocks, hills, roots on the ground, running, walking, every single step we take, your brain makes a mathematical calculation. It calculates your momentum, your rotation, your angle. It factors in conscious decision making. Every single step, it puts your foot down in the exact right spot that it has to, because if your foot was in a different spot, it would put pressure on your knee would blow out. Okay, that part of your brain does this correctly, possibly every step your entire life, or if you blow your knee out, it means your brain was right 99.9999% of the time, and it messed up once out of hundreds of millions of steps in your life. That's our subconscious. That's how good our subconscious is at placing your feet at the right angle based on all these factors that it calculates every single step. You cannot place your foot better than that part of your brain places your foot. It is impossible. There are so many different factors involved, not just on your throw, but every single throw you have based on the angle you're throwing it, the speed you're throwing it, the disc you're throwing based on the wind, how fast or soft you're throwing it, the terrain that you're on. It is impossible to say, well, on this throw, my foot must be at 30 degrees forward and my heel must be 8 degrees off the ground. Can't do it. You have to trust that this part of your brain will put your foot down in the right place every single time. It's no different than when you're playing basketball. The last time you did a layup, could you tell me what angle your left foot was pointing when you left the ground? No, of course you can't. You don't think about your feet when you're doing layups. That part of your brain will do it for you. You need to trust that your feet will go in the right place, because that part of your brain, in order to keep you alive 100,000 years ago, those people whose brains calculated correctly lived long enough to make more hominids. That's like I know I'm getting a little sciencey here, but that's the reality. Your brain's great at placing your feet down. So when I was doing all the private lessons, I've done thousands of them, almost without exception. And I can't remember a single exception, but there probably is one. But I can't remember a single exception. When someone said their knees were hurting when they threw, they would follow that statement with, I don't understand why. I watched this video, and when my shoulders get to 45 degrees, that's when I transfer onto my heel, because you're supposed to transfer onto your heel when your shoulders are here. And when my body gets to right here, as I release the disc, that's when I switch from my toe to my heel and I rotate. Every single time, without exception. I think it's without exception that their knees hurt. It's because they were doing something with their feet on purpose. All we did to fix it is I said, stop thinking about your feet when you throw. Your feet are right. And they would throw it. They'd be like, hey, my foot didn't hurt. Okay? So I can't say for sure that this is going to be the solution for you, because I haven't watched you throw. I'm speaking in general here. But in general, that part of your brain will place your feet in the right place. The conscious part can't calculate fast enough to get it right. It's impossible. Sorry, got a little deep there, but I mean, I take this stuff so serious. I love. It's funny. I'm always laughing, and when I'm disc golfing, I'll like throw in the water, take a bogey, and I'm laughing about it. And I start talking about disc golf teaching, and I'm all serious, right? Because this is the most important thing to me in disc golf right now is my teaching. Underground Sports. Your page gave away 60 discs since June. Looking for some more focused causes. Reach out. I'm willing to be an extension for you in Florida. No, absolutely. No, just message me. I'll tell you who needs discs. Places, every developing country out there. Pick a country where they disc golf, which is most of them now. Contact the Ethiopian Disc Golf Club. Guaranteed, they need discs. There's courses in Mexico. Guaranteed, they need discs. Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, like they need discs in all these places. So I don't want to give you one. I don't want to be playing favorites. If I did that, then every single, like all of a sudden Malaysia would have thousands of discs and Cambodia wouldn't be getting any, right? So pick a country. They need discs. If it's a developing country, they need discs. They cannot afford discs. When the average wage is $100 a week and a disc costs $20 plus $15 more to ship, they cannot afford a third of a week's wage for a golf disc. Period. They need discs. Have you ever played in any putting leagues? Last week, Bud and I carded up with Chuck Kennedy and his wife in St. Paul at American Legion. Super fun. I actually haven't played a whole lot of putting leagues. I'm actually a bit antisocial when I'm training. Like I do a lot of training. I just train by myself. I don't do a lot of recreational play, to be totally honest with you. So when I was in one location, if I'm putting, I'm usually practicing by myself. I just have a different agenda. I would enjoy a putting league more than putting by myself. But when it comes to, for me, when I'm, trying to get ready to compete, I don't care about the part that I enjoy the most at all. I care about playing the best or what's going to be best for my game. And that's always practicing by myself. So I'm kind of boring in that regard. Back in the 90s, I heard that there were people that thought I was kind of a snob because I never played league. I never played doubles. And I hated that because it's not like I'm a snob. I wanted to play league with them. But when I had 2 hours to practice, I could get 1,000 putts in 2 hours. They wanted me to go play a league where I get 18 putts in. If it's a doubles league and my partner's putting well, I might get like 10 putts in 2 hours. When I can putt 1,000 putts in 2 hours, like I would rather play doubles than do 1,000 putts, but that's not good for my game. That's 10 practice putts. Barely helps. So yeah, so I'm boring when I play when I'm practicing. As an old school disc golfer, what is your take on courses? Should they be long bomber courses with long par threes, or should they be more technical par threes and four? So, I mean, distance is a factor, but it's not the only factor in making a good or adding a challenge to the hole. But when you say bomber courses, the thing is, a course has to have a distance. I mean, okay, when you're talking about a high level professional course, then yeah, your par three should be 450, 500, 600 feet. You know, because, well, maybe not 600, but like between 450 and 600. I mean, I'm rarely shorter than 400, which some people would call those bomber holes, but that's not bomber holes if you're a professional player. That's just that's what you're required to do. Like if you're throwing 300 feet, you're just not, your skill level isn't qualified to play at the highest level. Just the reality. If you're a baseball pitcher and you can't throw over 70 miles an hour, doesn't mean you can't enjoy playing baseball, but you're not qualified to play Major League Baseball. So it's not that they're necessarily bomber courses. Most of the players on tour don't like wide open long ball golf courses. 1,000-foot hole where you just throw two 500-foot hyzers is boring. No one likes that. Can't say no one, but very close to no one likes that. So technical challenges are the most fun. Players like woods. They like hard. Bradley Williams said this best, and this is what, and we were talking about Northwoods Black. Oh, are we getting ready to? I could join you guys. Are you guys ready to? Yep. Yeah, I'll wrap it up and we'll do it. All right, I'm going to wrap it up in just a minute, but I'll finish your question if there's any other pressing questions. What Bradley Williams said was, when you play Northwoods Black, the great thing about it is every time you par a hole, now this is Bradley Williams. He won a Pro Tour event last year. I think he won the Preserve, right? He's also won Maple Hill. So he's high level golfer. And Bradley Williams says, I like Northwoods Black because every time you get a par, you get a dopamine hit. That was perfectly summed up. Like, a par at a high level course for a high level player shouldn't be mundane. You should never get a par and be like, another par. A par should be like, whew, that could have been worse. You know, like, I had to execute a good shot. It's a 500-foot hole, but there's OB and trees everywhere. So I throw it, you know, and I'm 50 feet away from the basket. I missed my 50-foot putt, but I didn't go OB. I didn't hit an early tree. Like, par's pretty good. And you don't lose strokes by parring because very few people birdie that hole, but a lot of pros bogey it. That's golf. That's what I think it should be. So it's not a matter of the bombers, but I think they should be hard. And yeah, I think a par 70 course, par 72 is totally reasonable. For sure. All right, I'm about to wrap it up. Is there any more? Let's see. When it comes to helping developers a new course, you're more interested in easy layout or development, something that makes people reach for a new level, or bring an easy course to grab new players. So it's not about easy, it's about fun. Okay. An easy course with a bunch of 150-foot wide open holes, you could have that park in your town for 100 years and no one's going to play it. You have to have fun. Make it fun. The most interesting courses are for new players are shorter courses. Doesn't mean they can reach every hole their first day, but they're relatively short courses. Let's say, 200 to 350-foot holes with lots of trees, lots of woods. Because then every hole is a challenge, but then most players get up to that 200 to 300-foot range pretty quickly, especially if you're a younger player, right? I mean, obviously, if you get older, like, these things might change, but get more challenging for all of us. If I take up a new sport at 53 years old, I'm gonna have a challenge. But like a younger player, that 200 to 300 range happens pretty quickly. That means you can reach most of the holes out there, which means you'll get birdies, and it's fun and it's wooded. Developing a course for players to develop their high level game is the least relevant part of the game, because that is such a minority of players that's relevant to, and those players can go out and just practice shots. They don't even need a course to practice those shots. So that's the least important. So you start with those easy courses, but by the time you have I would say a second or a third course in town, yeah, I think you should have a hard course, because a hard course it's also fun to have a course where a good player is shooting 20 over. I'm saying a great player, but like, an MA2 player is shooting 15 over. great. Then they have something to strive for. So, hey, I'm going to go and wrap it up here. Unless there's another pressing question coming up. I love you guys. Thank you all. I got a huge group stuck around this time, pretty late as well. My 6-month online Become a Complete Disc Golfer course is at scottstokely.net. I encourage everyone, if you want to get better at disc golf, to sign up for that. I'm so proud of it. It's not just videos and a curriculum. I mean, there's so much interactive groups, trainers, form reviews. There's so much going on there, and it works. And then you buy stuff at scottstokely.net. But I'm going to head out. All right, we're ready to go?
Yes.
All right. And, oh, wait, Stokely Universe discs. Those are my full color. They're all on Discraft ESP buzzes at scottstokely.net. And there's minis available too as well. And these are not priced like super expensive. These are actually priced so everybody can afford them. And we will let you sign us off.
Come to Malaysia and play with us.
Yes, come to Malaysia and play. All right, thank you so much, Mickey. All right, thanks everyone.